What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Point After Podcast. This is episode 12, possibly the last full podcast we do of college football this season for 2020. Today we'll be talking about our Heisman predictions, giving out the first ever TPA awards, I'm assuming.
Call that.
And then we'll talk about some of the NY6 games going on tomorrow, which should technically be today when you're watching this video, Friday, and then on to next week in the National Championship. As always, joined by the co-host, Matt, rocking the new TPA apparel, I see.
Yep. Yeah, this is one of two T-shirts. So, of course, both of them sponsoring the Tide as well. But looking forward to it. I know me and you were talking about getting a sweatshirt. Got to get one of those. But, I guess you could say last college episode. Kind of bittersweet. Got a lot lined up for the spring, you know. Still got football.
Absolutely, yeah. We've kind of got away from a full podcast, but we're still putting out good content. Our bowl game picks are doing really well.
10-4.
Advice for fantasy football won some guys their championships, so even though the podcasts haven't been as frequent, the content's still there, and we're still grinding. But yeah, like he said, we got a sweatshirt coming. We got the 2021 apparel design dropping maybe sometime this week. Just trying to finalize that. But yeah, so we can get on into it. But we'll start with the Heisman predictions. I think realistically it's a 2-3 man race. You know, they narrowed it down to 4 people. I think one person, if they would have voted after bowl games, one person would have eliminated himself tonight, being Kyle Trask. 3 interceptions, no touchdowns, with a abysmal performance. But I'll let you start. Who do you think takes it home between Trevor Lawrence, Devontae Smith, and Mac Jones?
I mean, from a statistical standpoint, is it even really close? So to me, I think Devontae Smith's the clear-cut front runner, I guess you could say. But I think there's a lot of name-worthy people, you know, not knocking on Lawrence or Mac Jones or, you know, Kyle Trask or anybody. Incredible seasons from everybody. But as far as what somebody's done for a team, is it even close?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm kind of thinking. It's like Devontae's the clear-cut Heisman winner, in my opinion, when it comes to the best player in college football. Undoubtedly, it's hard to say it's not Devontae Smith. I think if you break it down to different type of awards, and I think I touched on this on a podcast we did early, like week 4, maybe week 5, back when Zach Wilson was still kind of in the running. If you break it down between Maxwell, Walter Camp, and Heisman, you know, some people could say it's the same player for all 3, but then I think you can make a good case where it's a different person for each award. So like Devontae Smith, Heisman winner, Trevor Lawrence would be the like player of the year, the best player in college football, because I mean he's inevitably going to be the number 1 pick. And then Mac Jones could be like the most outstanding player of the year, like the guy that kind of surpassed all expectations, lived up way above his hype, you know, things like that.
Say what you want to. I think Najee Harris got snubbed. I think he deserves to be in the virtual ceremony. Maybe that's a little biased, but how many touchdowns did he wind up with? I mean, 24?
Yeah, something like that. He had a bunch.
23?
And it was all-purpose touchdowns, not just rushing. Let's see.
Yeah.
There should be a total touchdowns responsible for. That's probably gonna be all quarterbacks. Najee Harris had 27. Well, 27 total
27
is what this is saying. 24 rushing, I'm assuming.
Rushing and receiving. Who knows?
Yeah,
Probably
24 rushing, 3 receiving. So yeah, I agree. I think Najee definitely got snubbed. Which, I mean, he came in at number 5. Not terrible, but
like you said, you know, after bowl games, I think he could have been in the 4 spot.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Trask played great all season. His numbers were very similar to Joe Burrow last year. But yeah, I think Najee got snubbed. In my opinion, I don't think Trevor Lawrence had a Heisman type season, but I think when you talk about who's the top 3 players in college football, you can't really leave him out of the Heisman conversation.
Yeah, I mean, and also in terms of value to a team, I don't know necessarily if it was all about Trevor Lawrence when they, played Notre Dame for the second time in the ACC championship game and, beat them pretty soundly. I don't know if it was all Trevor Lawrence. I didn't really watch that much of that game. But what I do know is that the first time they played, they lost, and the second time they played, they won. And he was not playing the first time, and he was playing the second time. So in terms of value to a team, I look at that, all across any sport, basketball, football, baseball, whatever. And he's definitely one of the most valuable players in the country.
Yeah, not only did they lose when he didn't play, they won by, 4 scores when he did. And
I looked and it was 24-3 at one point.
Yeah, I think last time I saw it was 30-3. I don't know if Notre Dame tacked on a late touchdown. But nonetheless, like it's like you said, it's his meaning, how much he means to that Clemson team. It showed this year, but I don't know that I would have even put him in the top 3 for the Heisman candidates. I would have put Trask in before I put Trevor Lawrence in, and Trask again. Yeah. I don't even think he was necessarily his stats were deserving, but his player performance wasn't, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, we can. I think we agreed Devontae Smith should win the Heisman on Saturday, or I think it's Tuesday. It's either Saturday or Tuesday.
January 6th.
Okay.
I think it's Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday or Wednesday, sometime next week. Yeah, I don't know. I just find that very weird. Like, do it on the, I guess because the college football playoff rankings come out on Tuesday. Maybe you replace that with the Heisman. I don't think I can come up with, I guess.
It's virtual, I believe.
Should be, yeah. Especially with it being in between. I mean, I guess the only reason it wouldn't be virtual would be if Clemson and Alabama both get eliminated on Friday. Yeah. But nonetheless, we'll get into the first ever Point After podcast, college football awards. We did a little different from your normal awards show. Me and Matthew kind of agreed that we didn't want to cover the obvious, best wide receivers, Devontae Smith, best running back, Najee, best quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson. So these awards are the players who were kind of slept on, overlooked, overshadowed due to more high caliber Power 5 players. Matt, you played quarterback in high school. I'll let you start with your quarterback of the year not named Trevor Lawrence or Mac Jones.
Or Justin Fields. I went with quarterback Carson Strong from Nevada. 5, let's see. This was a one game, last game in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. 271 yards, 5 touchdowns. Had the overall stats pulled up. Changed it to Devontae a while ago. Yeah, almost 3,000 yards. I looked at that when I was looking at all the quarterbacks a while ago, and I was like, that's pretty incredible. I know I didn't throw anywhere near 2,000 yards or 3,000 yards. So when I look at that number, I'm like, wow, that's a lot. So I went with him. There's a lot of people, that are deserving of this award, I guess you could say. I know there's a lot of expectations of people, especially in terms of like NFL draft. There's going to be a lot of quarterbacks. But I went with him in terms of a team that we don't really talk about much. I know they had a good run. I'm pretty sure they found themselves in the top 25 at one point this season. But I went with him. That's Charlie Strong, or Carson Strong.
Yeah, he played really well in the bowl game against who did Nevada play? Tulane, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he impressed me there. He didn't turn the ball over, but that was something that he did all year. He didn't turn the ball over all year. Threw for 27 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Again, the 3,000 yards that you alluded to, he did that in 9 games. So, I mean, you're looking at a little over 300 yards per game, which, again, he's probably not going up against the best defenses, but it's still impressive that nonetheless you're putting up 300-plus yards per game. I don't care if you're playing against FCS 10 weeks or you're playing against Power 5. Like 300 yards per game is impressive nonetheless.
71% completion percentage. I mean, I think anything over about 68 is pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely, because you can run shallow routes or swings or whatever and get your completion percentage, but the fact that your completion percentage is that high along with 300 yards per game it just makes it all the better. My quarterback I went with was Dylan Gabriel from UCF. UCF had been to, I believe this would be their first true quarterback they've had since Mackenzie Milton when he got hurt. I'm excited to see him play next year at Florida State, by the way, just a little throw that in there. But Dylan Gabriel, number 5 in completions this year, number 3 in touchdowns with 32, number 4 in yards, threw for 3,500. And the biggest thing to me is he's only threw, just like Strong that you mentioned, he's only thrown 4 interceptions all year. On top of that, his whole career, he's put up 61 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. And Strong is a redshirt sophomore. I'm going to pull up Dylan Gabriel really quick. I'm pretty sure he is too. So he's not a redshirt sophomore. He's just a sophomore in general. But, I mean, both of these guys are leading the NCAA in passing, and they're only in their second year in college. So I think these are two guys that we can keep an eye on for years to come. And I think if they keep taking care of the football, putting up these good completion percentage and passing ratings, then who knows, when we might be talking about them winning the Heisman in a couple of years.
Could be. Could see him for sure. Rolling along to running backs, I assume, would be next on the list. I think me and you talked a little bit before, kind of both agreed on one player. For sure, I had 2 players, but they were from the same team. So with that being said, first ever rushing TPA awards, North Carolina running backs Michael Carter and Javonte Williams. 313 attempts, right at 3,000 yards, and almost 30 touchdowns total on the season. I think that's, I talked about them in previous episodes. So I've been harping on them all year about how great they are. And the stats speak for themselves. I'm a big stats guy, so I gotta hand the award to both of them.
Yeah, touching on that, I'm looking at the total yards, total carries for each of them right now, and something that stands out to me is Javonte only had 1 more carry than Michael Carter did, but Carter had about 100 more yards. So not only are you looking at 2 1,000-yard rushers, you're looking at a very balanced backfield. Javonte
touchdowns are a little different.
Yeah, which
but,
I think
still.
Let's see. Javonte is a junior. Michael Carter he's a senior. So Javonte's coming back next year. That's a positive for North Carolina and for Mac Brown. But yeah, I mean, Javonte was number 6 in yards. Michael Carter was number 4. And when you have 2 of the top running backs in the nation on the same team, that's a deadly offense. It don't really matter how good your defense is. That's something you're going to have to worry about.
To mention they're probably North Carolina, I would consider them pass first team with Sam Howell. I mean, so you're looking at a team that's probably throwing the ball at least 45% of the game.
Yeah, and not only are they looking at, Sam Howell, I believe he's still coming back next year too, right? I believe he's a sophomore, junior, or did he played late in his career?
I don't know. I thought he was a junior. Could be wrong.
I think he's got 1 year left at least. So yeah, I agree with it. I do think they are a pass first offense nonetheless. But when you're looking at these 2 running backs, you're looking at guys who put up over 500 yards on Miami, who 8 weeks ago was in the conversation to win the ACC and make a college football playoff. So, I mean, that's incredible. I mean, Michael Carter rushed for 308. Javonte rushed for 236, and Javonte is actually second in the NCAA in touchdowns. So
Yep.
I like the double award there. I'll give him my notable guy. My second guy I picked was Kyron Williams from Notre Dame, the guy who said that Alabama will have to kill him to stop him. That's a hot take. That's probably going to get exposed in a couple of days. But nonetheless, number 12 in yards, averaging 5.5 yards per carry. Number 2 in touchdowns with 19. And then he's put up 95 yards per game versus Clemson. And he rushed for 100 yards in 6 games this season. And even though he's listed as a sophomore, he only played in 2 games in 2019, so he technically still has a red shirt available, I believe.
Yep.
So should he get hurt or something, we'll get to see him from next year. But nonetheless, I think Kyron Williams is an honorable mention. Going up against ACC defense, their first year in conference, and I don't know how long, if not ever. So I'm throwing him in as an honorable mention.
I respect it. Yeah, I'm with you though. I don't know about the take. I definitely see that being exposed, but you never know. He's an incredible player. That's why he's one of the best running backs in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move on to the wide receiver position. I've got 2 guys down. I think you did too, possibly. I'm gonna go with my first one is Jalen Darden, the wide receiver from North Texas, leading the NCAA in touchdowns with 19 receiving. He is number 3 in yards with just under 1,200, and number 4 in receptions. This is a guy who, again, he's still young. He's had 2 200-yard games this year, 5 100 yards. He's averaging 16 yards per catch. He's got 10 games in a row with a touchdown. I think his career, he's averaging like 12 yards per catch or something like that. So this is a guy who, I don't know if he's just running nothing but deep routes, but I know when he gets the ball, you're looking at a guaranteed first down.
Yep. We definitely both agreed on that, especially when you look at the biggest stat line, touchdowns. It's hard to overlook somebody that has 19 of them. But I guess you could say my honorable mention for receiver, with Jalen Darden being the first, my first option. My backup option would be Elijah Moore. We talked a lot about him during the Alabama-Ole Miss game, and he's averaging almost 14 yards a catch. So that's a first down every time you throw him the ball, pretty much. So I think he's second among players in yards. So he's came a long way from the hiking the leg penalty. I'll give him the award though.
Yeah, maybe need to get a special award named after him just for best. So what we go? Most memorable celebration, something like that. And that was the egg roll.
The game.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I
don't
don't
think
think
it's worse than
throwing a
the
shoe, but
the shoegate. But yeah, so let's see. You had Jalen Darden. Do you have another receiver wrote down, or?
No, that was Elijah Moore was the only other one.
Yeah. So Elijah Moore. I've also got Calvin Austin. He's just like Jalen Darden. He's got 17 yards per catch in his career. He leads the American Conference in yards and touchdown this year. Averaged 16.7 yards per catch. He's got 5 games in a row, or had a 5-game skid where he put up 100 yards in each game. So I'm gonna go with him as my honorable mention. And their quarterback, Memphis, Brady White, is just a guy just like Dylan Gabriel, who's kind of overshadowed, but the dude can sling it. The guy is 6. I think he's a 6-year senior this year. He's going for his doctorate right now, which I don't know how he's still playing. But yeah, I think that's a pretty cool story for Brady White, being 6 years in college football. And then yeah, Calvin Austin was his favorite target this year, and it showed by the numbers that they put up.
Yeah, definitely got to agree with you there. One thing I was going to ask you though is I was thinking about this earlier and I meant to bring it up, but since we were talking about players, anybody from Cincinnati stick out to you, Coastal Carolina, any of those guys? Because, Coastal Carolina had one of the highest scoring offenses. You would think there'd be a guy that somewhere in the top 10 in rushing, receiving, passing, something along the lines.
Yeah, I'll say for Cincinnati, their defense stood out to me more than anybody individually on offense. They've played really well all year, and it kind of goes back to like we were saying. Even if you throw for 300 yards per game against the bottom half of the NCAA in defense, total defense or passing defense, however you want to look at it, it's still impressive to have that feature no matter what. And the same kind of stands out for Cincinnati's defense. They played really well all season. It doesn't really matter who they're playing against, but nonetheless, just them playing as well as they did all season, they kind of stood out to me, which is a big reason why I'm big on them going up against Georgia on Friday, I believe. We'll get to that later, but I'll touch on Coastal Carolina's running back, Torrance Marable, I think, had a really good year. He put up, I think, 800 yards, 12 touchdowns. This is his senior season. Pretty good way to go out. I mean, you finished 10-1, 12-1, something like that. I can't remember exactly how many games they played. 3-point loss to Liberty, which hurt. I think that was probably the best ball game I've seen all season to this point. I think he had a really good year. Is there anybody you kind of thinking of? Desmond Ridder comes to mind, maybe.
Yeah, I was looking at something a while ago. I'm trying to go back to it because I've already moved on to I was pulling up my defensive stats. Well, that's still defense. Anyways, I think I backed out of it. I don't even remember what it was. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, dude. Me and you also had De'Aaron King in our Heisman at the beginning of the season, and he announced that he's coming back. Do you see anything different in terms of his season now versus when he comes back next year? I know he had the injury, but I assume he'll be playing next year. What do you think?
Are you talking in terms of like Miami's success or his success?
His success, because you and I both had him in our Heisman predictions. I don't think we had him to win, but I think we said he would be talked about, and I don't think he has at all. So
I see him putting up a Kyle Trask type season, not a Kyle Trask type numbers as far as passing yards and passing touchdowns, but I think when it comes to just overall impressive performance, winning games versus Florida State, Louisville, Georgia Tech by 20, 30 points and putting up a lot of stats to go with it. I think that's the kind of season that De'Aaron King is going to have next year, because at the end of the day, Miami's not going to compete for a national championship next year. So De'Aaron King is basically playing for his NFL status. He's going to try to raise his draft stock. I think he's going to have a good season. I mean, he played really, really well at Houston. He's going to be in his second year in Rhett Lashley's offense. I mean, he's got a dang good freshman quarterback behind him who played really well last night against Oklahoma State behind him. So I think he's going to have to come back and he's going to have to battle, and I think that's going to make him play even better. It's just because he's got a guy on his butt that he knows that if he don't perform that, the guy played really, really well last night. So I think that's going to force De'Aaron King to play even better.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you in terms of, just putting up a lot of stats. One guy came to mind, kind of like a Gardner Minshew type season. Dude threw for like 4 million miles or 4 million yards his senior year. Did he even get a bid in Heisman? Did he get invited?
I think he was
he was a fourth.
Yeah, he wasn't one of the top guys, but he was in it. Yeah. Another guy you kind of look at is a possibility to go. I'm predicting Pac-12 or Big Ten next year is Ryan Hilinski, South Carolina's quarterback. I don't know if you saw it. He announced earlier today that he's going to be transferring. So I can see him ending up at. I don't know who needs a quarterback off the top of my head. But I can see him
plays down or plays up in terms of competition. Like go to a smaller school, I guess you could say. Do you think he keeps it Power 5?
I think it'll keep it Power 5. And like I said, I don't think it'll be UCLA type school like Chip Kelly. I think it'll be like a pro style, um, take care of the football, put up good solid numbers, but and like take a mediocre team into a winning team, but not enough to like put them into the spot.
Nothing meaningful. Yeah.
Which I mean, that's that's something we can talk about in the off season too. Is just all the different who's coming back next year, who's going to make a name for themselves, all the transfers and things like that too. But yeah, so before we get to defense, is there anybody else offensively that you want to note or touch on?
No, the Air King was the last person I had pulled up. Only had 4 tabs.
Yeah, let's see. While I'm here, I'm looking at the field goal percentage. Did you know there's like 4 or 5 guys in the NCAA that 100% field goal percentage?
100%?
100%, yeah. BYU, Alabama, Central Michigan, Utah, and Washington State all are 100% on field goals. I think that doesn't make sense. Yeah, so
that doesn't make sense.
And I'm assuming that's like you have to have a certain amount of kicks, like you're not 1 for 1 or something.
Yeah.
But
I would definitely hope so.
Yeah. So defense-wise, I'll go ahead and start with mine. I actually went ahead and took San Diego State, number 3 in first downs, number 8 in rushing yards per game, number 16 in passing yards per game, and number 4 in yards per play and yards per game. So again, it goes back to you're not playing against Power 5 offenses, you're not playing against Justin Fields or Mac Jones or anybody like that, but still, nonetheless, being able to hold your opponents, no matter who you're playing, week in and week out, to very little points, very little yards is an impressive stat. To me, again, it don't really matter who you're playing, but just being able to show that consistency and to be a force in conference play is really impressive.
Yeah, definitely had San Diego wrote down along with 4 teams, but the team I went with was Army Black Knights. They are second in points per game at 14, and top 5 in total yards per game, and top 10 in passing yards per game allowed. So you look at that, and their team is sitting here at 9-2. Did they win their bowl game?
They play tomorrow. Army plays West Virginia tomorrow.
Okay. Well, even better. So
we'll talk about that.
I went with them solely because you typically don't see Army as a 9-2 team. It's usually Navy that's getting all the credit in those type of teams. So this year, little turn of events. So
yeah, and the thing I like about Army too is, did you see all about their? Let's see. So they had the bowl game against, I believe it was Tennessee or South Carolina, and then I think South Carolina opted out, and then their coach went on the radio and was like, I'll see if I can give you the exact quote, but he basically begged for a bowl game, and then got it against West Virginia. Let's see if I can get this quote. Okay, this is what he said. He said, "Don't say no to Army because you're not just saying no to our team. You're saying no to the 1.3 million people who serve on active duty all over the world, who want to have that source of pride represented in a bowl game. These seniors have made a pledge to put their lives on the line for every other college football player in this country, for every college football fan, for everybody that's involved in these decisions. Somehow, some way, somebody should say, we're going to make a way for this team to play. Next day gets a bowl game. I'm betting the house on Army, just for that reason."
Yeah, I definitely can see where he's coming from. Maybe it was what they needed. Who knows? They should have gotten a bowl game anyways to begin with without that even being said. But I understand. They deserve it. Top 5 team defense, 9-2 record. Played 11 games. Not many teams got to do that this year. So against West Virginia, West Virginia's a high-scoring team. Army is typically not. So hopefully we'll see that defense come to play.
Yeah, another thing to look at too is West Virginia is actually the number. Let's say this is messed up because those three teams didn't play. 6th ranked defense in 2020. Army is number 2 behind Wisconsin. So I'm expecting a low scoring ball game tomorrow. I could see
40, 45.
yeah, somewhere. I don't know what the spread is in the over underline. But I'd probably take the over, especially if it's anywhere near 50 or above. I would probably take the under in that. I know a couple games dropped today. I think Wisconsin was like 47 yesterday. By the time it kicked off, it was at 43. So I'd keep an eye on that if you're into the betting antics. So is there another defense that kind of stood out to you this year? Another Power 5, Group of 5, anybody like that?
It definitely wasn't Alabama's. We could say that. I know me and you had talked about BYU's defense, and I guess it was 3 podcasts ago, maybe. Who did they play? I think it was like week 8 or 9. I don't know. They were both undefeated.
CCU?
Well, I know that it was earlier than that. It was earlier than CCU.
Houston?
Maybe it was Houston. Regardless, they're still holding. Or they did hold teams to below 15 points per game. I know they kind of slipped up there towards the end, but they were worthy of the talk all season, so why not give them a little credit?
Yeah, BYU is ranked at number 10, 11, somewhere in there. And again, just like I mentioned earlier, Cincinnati's defense coming in at number 9, giving up just over 300 yards per game.
Which is really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. I want to see if I can maybe pull this up to. I don't think I can quickly, so I'm not even gonna try it. But I was gonna try to pull up maybe rushing defense. Oh, here we go. Okay, that's rushing attempts, rushing yards per game.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, Georgia gave up 70 yards per game rushing this year. So I think that's a little something to note. Looking forward to the New Year's 6 game on Friday.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's really good.
And okay. Here's another thing for you. We talked about North Carolina's backfield. Texas A&M only gave up 92 yards per game, and that's second best in the country.
Wow.
So
Texas A&M came a long way. What I thought their season could have been like, most teams have play Alabama just kind of fades, but they hung in there. Probably should have been playing Friday. But I guess that kind of rolls into our playoffs.
I was going to say we can go ahead and kind of get into that conversation because I got a couple of questions for you, not only for the playoffs but for the bowl games in general. But yeah, we'll start with that since this is the first time we've talked since the playoffs have been announced. Do you agree with the top 4? Did the committee get it right? Did they get 75% of it right? I'm guessing we're kind of looking at the number 4 spot. What do you think?
I understand it. I understand the top 4 the way it is in Florida. Losing to LSU just really kind of messed everything up. But honestly, I just think Texas A&M is the 4 team. Especially after what happened in the ACC championship game. I think Texas A&M's only loss being to the clear-cut best team in the country, top to bottom. I don't know. To me, I just feel like it's wrong. I think they only got it wrong by 2 teams because Notre Dame, like I said, I understand it, but my biggest point is Ohio State. I don't get it with the only 6 games. I don't know. It just blows my mind. It's kind of hard to talk about because it just doesn't make sense to me.
The way I look at it is, if Ohio State came in ranked, we'll say they came into the season ranked number 15, they go 6-0, play 6 games, win the Big Ten. They're not getting in. They're just not. The only reason they are even considered the top 4 team in the country is because they came into the season the top 4 team in the country, because they finished last season the top 4 team in the country. I think if you're looking at, we'll just take Texas A&M for example. I mean, like you said, their only loss is to the number one team in the country, arguably the favorite to win the national championship. Like,
Yeah.
to me, Texas A&M is a better football team. Like, the past couple of years, Ohio State has showed you that they're gonna have that one game where they slip up and they lose to a team they shouldn't lose to. Texas A&M had games where they slipped up, but they still found ways to win. Like, you look at the Auburn game, it wasn't pretty, but they got the job done. The only game they lost was a 3-score game to Alabama in week 3 of the season.
Yeah, week 3.
I mean, to me, is Ohio State a top 4 team in the country? Possibly. But do they deserve to be in the college football playoff? I don't think so.
No. I think it was you that said this the other day, and I thought it was perfect. I think this year would be a perfect year just to call off the playoff and just do the BCS for 1 year, because it should just be Alabama and Clemson right now. Who's to say, which, we'll talk about this more in a second, but I will go ahead and say I do and can see Ohio State pulling an upset, but overall I'm sticking with Clemson. But we'll talk about that more in depth. But anyways, they could be. They could be like Alabama had they played 11 games. They could have been 11-0. Who knows? But like you said, sitting at 6 games, I just don't understand it. Especially the 3 spot. I guess they did that so Clemson Notre Dame wouldn't have to play again. But still,
yeah, that's the way I look at it is. At the end of the day, the rankings don't really matter when it comes to top 4. As long as you're one of the top 4 teams in the country, that's all that matters. Because you're going to have to beat the best team to be the national champion, no matter if you play them in round 1 or round 2. And to me, I'd kind of rather play them in round 1 because you have more time to prepare. You get the extra week off, so essentially you get a bye week to kind of build up to it. Especially this year, where you only get 10 days to prepare for the national championship. So, yeah, I don't know. I think there's cases to where you say, and again, it just kind of comes down to what your criteria is to how you make your rankings, I guess. Like to me, I'm not going to put in, I'm going to take into consideration who's the most deserving over who's the top 4 team in the country. Because to me, Oklahoma, the way they finished the year, you could make a case for them being a top 4 team in the country. But do they deserve to be in the college football playoff? Absolutely not. And the way they played tonight against Florida, you could kind of say, like, wow, this team is a lot better than number 7 or number 8, whatever they're ranked.
They peaked too late.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. So, yeah, well, I think we agree on the college football playoff. Snubbage.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you. So we'll get into. Undoubtedly, we're both taking Alabama over Notre Dame. So I'll ask you: do they cover the spread? I think the spread's at 19 or 20. What's your score prediction for Friday?
I don't know. I really don't know because I'm iffy on because Alabama's offense has just been so good all season. I really just they're gonna win. I know that they're gonna win. Unless some miracle happens, which it could, I guess, but they're gonna win. So I really hope that if we're gonna have a bad game, I hope that it is Friday. You get what I'm saying? So which I know we've had slower games on the season, but nonetheless, I'm gonna say yeah. I think they cover the spread. I think 19. If it's 19, I think they cover. I could see them winning. Maybe like 47-24, 47-20,
I was thinking
somewhere
like
in there.
45-24, 45-27, somewhere in there. That's what.
Yeah.
We're on the same page there. But yeah, I agree. I think you make a really good point. Where I hope this is the down game, because to me, honestly, the same way I see this game going, and it kind of scares me too, is the same way Florida went, the same way Oklahoma went 2 years ago, where we start off and it's a blowout. It's not even close, and then you're just kind of sitting there with like, well, this game's over, but we still have to play it, So what was it when we played Oklahoma? It was 28-0 the first quarter, the early second quarter, and you're just sitting here like, we all knew this was going to happen, but like there's still 3 more quarters of football that has to be played. So
almost came back.
Yeah, I think they ended up winning that one by 2 scores, and I think that's kind of what's going to happen here. Alabama's going to go up big, and then it's like, well, we're going to pull the starters out on offense, but the starting defense is still going to have to stay in, and Ian Book's going to throw for 2 touchdowns, and Kyron Williams is going to run for 1. So that's where I think those points come in for Notre Dame. I think it's all late second half points where Alabama's up 3 scores, and Najee's just running the football, killing clock. And Notre Dame just kind of 2-minute drills down the field and puts up some points.
Yeah, I don't, I think too, talking about taking the starters out, I think if you see Alabama get up 21, 24, 28 points, somewhere in there, 3 scores for sure, I think we see a lot of these guys go ahead and get called out of the game. I think Mac Jones will probably be the only one that stays. Mechie will probably still play, but as far as Devontae, Najee, maybe even a couple guys on defense.
Yeah, if Alabama goes up 3 scores, you're going into the fourth quarter. Mac's out, Najee's out, Devontae's out. I could see them taking Alex Leatherwood out. Surtain, he'd probably sit.
Yeah, he was who I was thinking of.
And then maybe Dylan Moses. I don't know. To me, I still feel like Dylan Moses hasn't played great all year.
No.
It's expected. You're coming off an ACL injury. I get it. But you haven't played like the first round draft pick that everyone's going to expect you to be come April. But yeah, I agree. I think Alabama goes up big. I think Alabama wins it undoubtedly. It's just a question of how's the game going to go,
Yep.
Well, we'll flip to the other college football playoff. Clemson at Ohio State. You said you could see Ohio State winning it. I think Ohio State keeps it close. I think this is not going to be last year came down to a controversial fumble call that was overruled. I think called incomplete when in reality it was a fumble. I think Clemson won that by less than the score. So I'm not expecting it to be that close as it was last year, but I do think it's a close game. Probably I'm going to go with like 37-31, 37-30, somewhere in there. So you're looking at like a 1-score ball game, but I think Clemson edges it out.
I had 35-24, and I think it's probably like 27-24, 25 or 28-24 going into the third quarter. But I think late, Clemson may score a touchdown, get a field goal, something to make the score look a little more than it actually was. But I agree with you. I think it's going to be a close game. I think, that's what I'm saying. Ohio State could be, like we were saying earlier, had they played 11 games, they may have proven themselves more worthy to be in the playoff. So we could see the actual team, last, 2 weeks ago in the Big Ten championship, they had to step up huge in the second half, and they did. So who knows? If they do win, I think it's less, like both teams are less than 30.
Yeah, I think it'll have to be a very, very defensive football game for Ohio State to stay in it. I don't think Ohio State can keep pace offensively because I think with Brent Venables has went up against top-tier quarterbacks for the last, 6-7 years since the college football playoff has been here. They've been in it every year but one, and I think that was the first year. And you go up against Deshaun Watson in practice every day for 2 or 3 years. So Brent Venables knows how to handle quarterbacks like Justin Fields, and undoubtedly Clemson's defense is going to have the dudes that can do that. So yeah, I think Ohio State's only chance at winning is to keep it close, keep it a low scoring game.
You'll have to see a sloppy game from Trevor Lawrence, I think.
Yeah, probably the worst game of his career. So
Maybe.
It would have
but
to.
I don't know that. I think. If he has the worst game of his career, it's because I guess he doesn't want to go play for Jacksonville.
Yeah, he's gonna call it quits, or not call it quits. He's gonna call it like I'm not staying. I'm gonna use this extra year and not go to Jacksonville. So,
yeah.
But nonetheless, so we got Clemson, Alabama, in the national championship. We'll talk about that when it comes, when it's in fruition. But for now, we can. I guess let's see. We can quickly cover the 9. What is it called now? It wouldn't be the college football playoff bowls, but it's not the BCS bowls. Like the Cincinnati, Georgia, the Peach Bowl.
Citrus Bowl.
Yeah, so I was the NY6, I guess, and the others that fall into that category. We'll give our quick predictions on them. And then I got one topic that's kind of hot that Doug mentioned in our group meet earlier. I didn't respond because I was going to save it for this. We'll clickbait, get people to watch, you know what I'm saying? But we'll start with tomorrow's games because, we need to get out that extra content. Starting at 11 o'clock a.m., Tulsa at Mississippi State. How do you see that game going?
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if Tulsa wins this game. I'm hoping Mississippi State does for the sake of the SEC. I think ultimately they do win the game, but I'm not going to be surprised if Tulsa wins this game at all.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a little opposite. I think it's gonna be a close game, but I like Tulsa. I think, and it's kind of the same way with Georgia. If KJ Costello is playing, I'm going Tulsa 100%. But with I can't remember his name right now, but with Mississippi State playing the other quarterback, the guy that kind of more fits the air raid system, I think Mississippi State's going to keep it a closer ball game. And again, I won't be surprised if Tulsa wins. I'm gonna go with Tulsa winning, but again, I think Mississippi State keeps it very close. But yeah, I've got the Golden Hurricanes coming out on top of that one.
Yeah. I guess the next bowl will be Arizona Bowl on my list. 22 San Jose State versus Ball State in Tucson, Arizona.
Yeah, so Ball State coming off a what conference is that? That's not Mountain West.
Are they not Mountain West?
With Buffalo?
Mountain West, or they in the MAC?
MAC. There we go. Okay. Coming off a MAC championship where they upset Buffalo, who played really well all year. But I'll ask you this before I kind of give my prediction. Was that more of a Ball State showing up? Was that a Buffalo fluke game? I mean, how did you see that one going? Kind of, I guess at the same time, kind of tell me how your prediction for this one too.
To me, I think Ball State just had an overall great game. I think it was a game that they came out and their plan was obviously, better in terms of playing Buffalo. But so I'm gonna stick with them. I know we said we were done picking the underdog, but I don't think you necessarily say Ball State would be an underdog to San Jose State. Who knows? Could be wrong. It's always 50-50. But I like Ball State in this one.
Yeah, I'm still kind of torn. I'm gonna pull up the kind of bet lines right now just for underdog purposes. So Tulsa is 1.5-point favorites over Mississippi State. San Jose State is 10-point favorites over Ball State, and then West Virginia is 7-point favorites over Army.
If they're 10-point favorite, they must be a pretty collected team.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Ball State's kind of one of those slept-on teams that, in turn, this would technically be an upset more so where Mississippi State's a 1.5-point underdog. I think if they win, that's not really an underdog winning, so to speak. So I'm with you. I don't know if Ball State pulls it out. I haven't watched enough of either of these teams to kind of really make a educated prediction on it. But looking at 10-point underdogs in San Jose State's defense, I think you're looking at a low-scoring game. I think Ball State covers the 10, but I'm going to go with San Jose State winning this just because of their defense. I don't know how good Ball State's offense is. I think the reason they beat Buffalo, if I'm not mistaken, they were able to keep that one a low-scoring game. I'm going to look up that score really quick. Buffalo college football. Relatively low-scoring. They lost 38-28. So, I mean, I would consider that kind of low scoring when you get that 50,
and 20.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at Ball State, they lost to Miami, Ohio, barely won, won big, barely won, and then won by 10. So, I don't know, man. I think it's going to be a really good game that I'm kind of looking forward to. I think it's going to be really neck and neck. But, yeah, again, I'm probably going to go with San Jose State in a very, very close one.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Definitely be one I'll have to watch on my phone. I'll more than likely either be at work or on the road. So, and I guess next game on the list would be Army West Virginia. We've already said, who we're betting the house on this one. We're both taking Army. Um, who else is left?
Let's see. That's it for tomorrow.
TCU Arkansas canceled.
Yeah, so we'll get into Friday. We both got Alabama. We're going to mark these down. We both have Clemson. Georgia, Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati's 7-point underdog. It's dropped to 6.5. So yeah, Cincinnati's still the underdog in that one. Over set to 50. What are you thinking?
I like Cincinnati. I do. I think if any team is going to, I guess you could say, upset on this list of the teams we've been talking about, I think it's definitely Cincinnati over Georgia. But I was looking, it's in Atlanta. It's Peach Bowl, obviously. It's in Atlanta. So I'm going to have to go with Georgia. I think, I know there's not going to be a lot of fans, but the atmosphere is going to feel the same. It's going to feel, like a home game. I think that plays a lot into how the game is played out. So I like Georgia. I'm going to say less than 10.
Yeah, I like Georgia, and it's not that I like Georgia to win. I like JT Daniels. This Georgia team, I said at the beginning of the year, this Georgia team is not the Georgia team they've been the past 2 years. They're not the Georgia team where they had Justin Fields for that short stint as a backup, where they had what's his name? Jake Fromm. It's a completely different Georgia team, but JT Daniels, when he came into quarterback, they're kind of like Oklahoma, where they peaked late. So I'm going to take Georgia too, and I've been Cincinnati up until about this point. But JT Daniels scares me, man. I can't take Cincinnati with JT Daniels as starting quarterback on the other side.
Yeah, I think it'll be one of those games where Cincinnati's defense it may just be a little too much for them compared to what they've been seeing in terms of depth and size and all that kind of stuff.
So that'll wrap up the Peach Bowl. Auburn and Northwestern. I thought the shade for probably 20 minutes earlier today about this game specifically. And it's just like Ball State and San Jose State. I don't know who's going to win. I don't know what to expect. I mean, I think if Northwestern shows up and performs, then Northwestern's going to take it easy. I think Anthony Schwartz is out for Auburn. They've got two other starters sitting out. You don't know what you're going to get with Bo Nix. Gus Malzahn's not coaching. I think I'm going to take Northwestern, but I'm not going to take that very confidently, just because you don't really know what you're going to get with them.
Yeah, I'm with you. If there's a team that can do anything out of nowhere, it's the Auburn Tigers. But I'm with you. Everything just seems a little too much for Auburn going on right now. So I'm sticking with Northwestern. I'm also with you on the fact that I'm not taking it confidently. Could be one of those games where Auburn just comes out and just wins by 20, 30 points, and you're just like, who's this team? But overall, I think we get to see back-to-back years of Auburn being taken down by a Big Ten opponent.
Yeah, I think, nonetheless, Northwestern is on the rise in the Big Ten, and to go with that, and this will carry us into our next game, I think Indiana's on the rise too. Northwestern has a hell of a head coach right now. Indiana has a hell of a quarterback who's going to be coming off ACL injury. So Indiana at Ole Miss, or not at Ole Miss, but versus Ole Miss. Neutral game site.
Stadium.
Yeah, 11:30 on Saturday. How do you see that one going? What are you thinking here?
I like Ole Miss. Only because I think Lane Kiffin maybe has something cooked up, something ready to go that gets them ahead, keeps them ahead. I think it's one of those games you see they kind of just swap touchdowns back and forth. It just kind of depends on who gets the last one. I think we see it high 30s maybe.
Yeah, I'm thinking 50, 60 points.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say maybe 34, 30, 34, 38, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think this is not going to be a game where it's a question of can Ole Miss score, because I think that's been answered all season long. They put up, let's see, the least amount of points they've put up all year was 21 to Arkansas in week 4. They've put up 52 of their last 3. They put up 48 against Alabama, 54 versus Vanderbilt. So, I mean, Ole Miss can score points. It's going to come down to can Indiana get stops without their starting quarterback playing, and I don't see that happening. I'm going to take Ole Miss just like you.
See who else. Iowa State versus Oregon. I think me and you both can agree on the same team here. I'm going with Iowa State.
Yeah, sorry, I got to keep on mute myself on here.
Good.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Iowa State too, and this game, Iowa State should be Big 12 champions. Brock Purdy threw 3 interceptions, I think, and then they lose by a score to Oklahoma. So I think Brock Purdy is going to bounce back from that. As far as I know, Breece Hall is still playing, which means Iowa State's offense is going to be rolling. Oregon's really inconsistent. I think this is going to be like the Oregon TCU game in the Alamo Bowl a couple years ago, where the score was like fucking 100 points. So I'm going with that one too. I think the over is like 57. I think it is 57. I think I put it in our TPA bowl bets. I'm going with the over, and I'm going with Iowa State.
Yeah, Oregon's one of those teams, kind of like Ohio State, haven't played enough for me to get an opinion. I just know that Iowa State has played enough and has some good quality wins this year. Found themselves in the top 10, so gotta choose them. Not a close enough underdog for me to take.
We'll finish. We got 2 more, and then I got one question for you. We'll kind of get out of here in about maybe 20 minutes. NC State versus Kentucky. Same situation. NC State playing without their starting quarterback. But Kentucky, I don't know what to expect. Kentucky's like one of those teams where they're an SEC team, so they don't really look great because they're getting railed by every team they play each week. But are they good enough to beat NC State? Possibly.
So, yeah. It's kind of the same. Who was it earlier? We were talking about Auburn and Northwestern. You really don't know. I think I would take North Carolina State. Just me.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning that way too. I think Kentucky has a shot if Joey Gatewood plays. But I don't know. NC State's played really well all year. I picked NC State on our bowl pick'em, so I think I'm gonna have to rock with NC State for this one at least. But we'll see. Again, if you're watching this and you're thinking about putting bets on it, you can tell which games we're confident in and which games we're not by how we talk about each team, and probably by looking at our facial expressions when we talk. But yeah, so we're both gonna rock with NC State. And then the last game of bowl season, besides the national championship, Texas A&M and North Carolina. Texas A&M and Keller Mond versus North Carolina's dynamic duo in the backfield. I think this was going to be a kind of shootout too. Texas A&M's offense or defense has played really well all season. We touched on that, but I think UNC can put up points. I think Sam Howell's going to play really well. I think Javonte Williams is going to, have a game where you're like, for North Carolina fans, like Blake Diamond, he's going to be, our future looks bright with this guy for at least one more season. So
yeah. It does.
I'm gonna go with Texas A&M, and it's kind of the same way I'm thinking about Cincinnati too. Is they need that statement game, like they need that. Hey, College Football Playoff Committee, you screwed up. We should have been there. Cincinnati's been snubbed all year, all season long. Cincinnati was snubbed. I don't think they ever broke top 5. I think they were 6th 1 week, maybe. So yeah, I think Cincinnati's going to play with a chip on their shoulder nonetheless. And then yeah, I think Texas A&M is going to play with a bigger chip, and then they're coming for blood.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think North Carolina can put up points, will put up points, but I think Texas A&M. I was going to say the exact same thing. Statement game for those guys. I think we see, I guess, a relentless team, a team that thinks they should have been in.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good game to watch. I mean, all these games they're New Year's Six bowls, so you have to watch them. If they don't fall into that New Year's Six category, the teams are all evenly matched, so you know it's going to be a really good ball game. Like the four we just mentioned, the Fiesta Bowl, Outback Bowl, Gator Bowl, the Citrus Bowl, the Peach Bowl, and then tomorrow's 3 bowl games. They're all going to be really good games. So we're looking at Thursday, Friday, Saturday, probably being glued to TVs all year or all day. So to round out 2020. Anything else you want to touch on bowl games before I ask you this one final question?
I don't know.
All right.
We've about covered it all.
So to wrap up the last true podcast of 2020 college football, how do you feel about players sitting out bowl games?
Oh, that's tough. I feel like if you know without a shout of a doubt, like you know that you are top 5, top 10 pick, and you're not competing for a national championship, I can understand it. Do I think it's right? No, I think if you make the commitment to play for a team, I think you should play. But like I said, I do understand it, and I respect it. So ultimately, it's really their decision. So that's really how I feel about it. But if I had to choose, I think it'd be that. I think I understand it, I respect it, but I think if you say you're going to play for a team, you should play if you're able.
Yeah, it's kind of like you said. I get it. I understand why you wouldn't want to play, but I don't. I kind of look at it like this. Like if you opt out, so we'll just look at Florida today, for instance. I mean, you look at Kyle Pitts. Florida gets absolutely destroyed by Oklahoma on national television where there's nothing else going on, but everybody in the world is watching that game. There's no NFL. NBA's on, but no one's really watching it right now. I don't think NHL is on. I know MLB's not. So, I mean, there's just nothing else going on except for this one game, the Cotton Bowl tonight. All eyes are on you, and you opted out. Your team gets blown out. You can't say, like, I don't think you have the right to say, like, we should have played better, we should have done this, we should have done that, because you quit. Like, you quit on your team. You chose to not play. Like, but then I also see where, like you said, if you're a first round, second round pick, too many players get injuries and it hurts their draft stock. I think the one exception would be Miles Jack from UCLA. He tore his ACL in the bowl game. He still goes first round. He ends up starting for the Jacksonville Jaguars that next season. But I mean, you look at De'Aaron King. What if De'Aaron King had said he was going pro and then he tears his ACL? Then you look at Kyle Trask. I mean, he chose to play in the bowl game and then he throws 3 picks. And if anything, that would hurt a draft stock. So, like I said, I think if you're first 2 picks, first 2 rounds, I understand it. I get it. I don't agree with it, but I get it. But I think if you're outside the top 2 or top 2 rounds, then I don't really see a point you sitting out of the bowl game.
No, I think we felt the same about that.
Well, I think that about covers it. We covered our awards. We covered our bowl predictions. There's really only so much we can talk about right now at this point in the season. Again, you can catch us back in a couple days, maybe sometime next week, where we discuss the national championship. Give a little breakdown, a little preview. Maybe bring somebody else on to help us discuss that one. But nonetheless, this is. I guess this kind of wraps up the first season, if you will, of the Point After Podcast Season 2 will commence in January, I'm assuming, for off-season content, for FCS content. You're going to get a lot of FCS stuff.
NFL.
Yeah, some off-season NFL stuff too. Maybe we do another podcast to kind of wrap up the NFL season when playoffs gets announced and everything. I think that's...
We can do it before, and then I guess either before or after Super Bowl. Do one before the playoffs.
Yeah.
110.
Yeah, absolutely. So still have a few more seasons or a few more episodes in Season 1, but Season 1 college-wise is going to wrap up here. Be sure to follow us on social media for all your extra content, like bold predictions, trade rumors for NFL, transfer portal rumors, just anything football related. We're going to try to get that out for you guys this off season to really help us grow. We got new merch dropping. Matthew's got merch on right now that you can check out. If you're a Alabama fan, we got some Jacksonville State stuff, UAB stuff, Auburn stuff. But we can do anybody. If you're a fan of San Jose State and you found your way to this part of the video and you want a San Jose State shirt, let me know. We'll get you one. And that applies for any team. So, nonetheless, this is episode 12 of the Point After Podcast. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you guys later.